You're listening to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Welcome to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. It's Dr. Charles Laux. Really exciting time and an exciting week on the podcast. We have two fantastic guests, and I'm going to introduce our first guest right now. This is Miss Tiffany Ou-Ponticelli. Thank you so much for being here. You are on the Pacific time, so we're trying to, we made it work. You just got out of school today, and I appreciate you being here and taking the time to come out.
Thrilled to be here, Charles. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be super fun. So you are in San Francisco area, right? And how long have you been at your school? It's Gunn High School?
Yeah, I'm at Gunn High School. I've been in the district for 13 years. I've been at Gunn for 10. So I was teaching at the middle school feeder and at the high school for a 10-year crossover. And now I'm just at the high school.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your background and kind of your career so far, because you're kind of, I guess, mid-career at this point.
Yeah, that's funny that you describe it that way. I think about it often as the adolescence of my career, where I've been around for long enough. I've had wonderful opportunities to do great things. There's still so much career left. I think about it often. And I look at folks like you who have been teaching for 28, 30 years, and I admire that a lot. So looking forward to it. But I grew up in the California Bay Area, not very far away from where I teach. My school's in Palo Alto. I grew up in Cupertino, for you Apple heads.
I love Apple. That's my thing here.
I grew up in Silicon Valley. I'm the child of two Taiwanese immigrants who came over in sort of the dot-com boom. And they were both musicians. They actually met in college choir, but they, out of practicality, worked in STEM and did a lot of STEM type things. And so they were very excited for their kids to really study music. And so both my sister and I were very fortunate to get to do a lot of music from an early age. I grew up as a pianist, mostly actually, competitive piano from age 3 or whatever, all of that stuff, violin at age 8, but I actually always wanted to play viola, and I identify as a violist, but I switched to viola in high school. Great. Before I went on to college. I went to UCLA as a viola performance and music ed double. I got to study with Richard O'Neill. It was fantastic. Wow. Learned so much about that. And then that's really where I decided, classroom music is where I want to be. And secondary ensemble is really something that's fun for me. So I've been so fortunate. My opportunities at UCLA allowed me to work a lot with like developmental psych and social justice and camp counselors for underserved kids. And all of those things I think really followed me into the classroom. And I have been working for the Palo Alto Unified School District for 13 years. So here we are.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, wow, this is so cool. And we are on the AFTA National Board together. You're secretary and I'm a member at large. Did you come in a year before me?
No, this is my same time. So I think you're a year before me, actually.
Oh, okay. So I'll be outgoing and you have another
and
year.
I've got one more. No, I've been really fortunate to have the opportunity to be nominated to run for the board. And it's been a great experience and a wonderful way to connect. You and I are on opposite coasts of the country, and orchestra is so many things in so many places, but it's really great to see nationwide perspectives. It
is. And I'm looking forward to kind of hearing more about it today and right now, and sharing that with our audience, because you've done so many things. I know I saw on your bio you've been to Midwest. When did you take your group to Midwest?
Yeah, Gunn Orchestras have performed at Midwest twice, 2013, where I was not yet a director there, and then in 2022, most recently. I have the opportunity to co-direct all of our Gunn Orchestras with my colleague Sandra Lewis, who has been at Gunn for 25 years and is just an incredible person, and started very much as a mentor to me and is still very much so, but we get to work together every day. And
that's
Midwest
awesome
2022.
Experience.
Oh, it's so special. Yeah. And it's, we're so lucky to have two orchestra teachers to get to bounce ideas off of, share the podium. It's fantastic. And Midwest was like a really special project. I know you're familiar with that whole process, but
I've done it. And, it's a kind of an experience you'll never forget. And those kids that you take to Chicago and do the whole thing and the whole process with, you never forget them. And
absolutely not. Yeah. And I think about just it was a chance for us to say, hey, we have been afforded this opportunity, and who are we bringing along with us? So when we're thinking about repertoire, and there's, of course, all the limitations that come with that, but how do we make sure that it still reflects our program's values? How do we make sure that we bring along anyone else who wants to come? And so it was very fun to get to sort of put together that puzzle and make it fit the Midwest guidelines. But we had a really wonderful time. Still super fun memories back from 2022.
Yeah. So, speaking of what are some of the things that you feel like you do to build community, or do you feel has it been there, or has it changed since you've been there? Because you've been there a little while. Is that an important part of your program?
I would say it's arguably like the most important part of what we do. And I know it's every director has their own way that they approach it. I think I don't know, you can probably tell from the 5 minutes I've been talking, I speak very quickly. I'm very excited about being here. And I think that kind of genuine energy is what I bring to my classroom as well. And so kids know me very well, especially having gotten to feed my high school program. I've had many, many students for 7 years, and that kind of growth together is so special, right? Like I get to see them from 6th grade through 12th, but they also have gotten to see me over 7 years, which is its own form of growth too. Yeah. But that kind of, go ahead.
I was going to say, you can feel that energy that you bring. And it's different even now than during after meetings, because we kind of have to be, a little subdued.
I'm busy typing during those meetings.
And so that's fantastic.
No, but I think to answer your question about community, like it's the core of everything we do, right? So more so than making sure that you definitely understand where 5th position is, I want you to understand like how your stand partner is feeling today. Like we have to make sure that we are seeing each other as humans before we can really get anything done that day. Yeah. So that means that every warm up is a stand partner pair share of like, hey, person who like, talk to your stand partner who has more tests this week. Whoever has more tests is feeling more stressed. Hey, we'll have you play second. Like, so who less stressed today, let's have you play. Other person check in on these things. Can you guys talk about it? We do a lot of modeling of what does feedback look like. So every kid is being heard by at least one person playing and talking every period. And I think that is the core of sort of my class philosophy. How much can I make it so that I'm not the knowledge bearer disseminating everything? How much can I put that on the students and helping each other?
Love that. Yeah. So you become the facilitator rather than the dictator.
Yeah. And I know we all aspire to do that in so many ways, and we all do it differently. But I think for me, it's a combination of making sure everyone is heard and, some genuine silliness. Like I love humor in the classroom. Right. And it works if you genuinely are there. And it doesn't mean you're sarcastic or rude with kids, but it does mean that like we have a really loving relationship that can have some humor in it. And I think that makes the day-to-day really fun.
Yeah. I mean, what is a great classroom without some laughter? And, I'm the king of dad jokes in my room. So I would
bet that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. And, but yeah, that sounds wonderful. I just love the way that you explain it. And then I'm sure the implementation is just really amazing.
I have to credit everything that I know to other people. Everything that I've taught and everything that I've ever seen is because I saw it somewhere and was like, wow, I love that, and then turned it into my version of it. Yeah. And I encourage all younger teachers to do the same. It's our profession where like I don't think a GPT is going to replace the genuine connection of you interpreting what a teacher does and doing it again.
And I think that's what makes our classroom so special, that we have that connection. There are some core classes, math, whatever, that may have some connections like that. But what we do and then what we get to do after we make those connections, and it's unlike anything else. And so I think that's what keeps a lot of the kids in our programs and keeps me going. I mean, I don't see an end in sight really, and it's been almost 30 years, and I'm still loving it every day and going in and just seeing the kids and seeing them grow and seeing them connect. And that's what keeps me going.
I love to hear that. I mean, I live in San Francisco. I have many friends who work in tech, and I think commonly folks change jobs every 2 years, 3 years. And the idea that I've been in this career for 13 years and continue to plan to be so for the next 30 or however long they'll have me. Like it is, I feel the same way as you. Like I come back every time, like choosing new repertoire means that I get to choose a whole new landscape for what my year looks like. Choosing new ways to bond with kids, that just means it's a whole new landscape for that. I've yet to get bored.
That's the thing is, it is work. And people say, like, if you don't really work when you go, no, it's really work. It is work.
Oh yeah.
But it's work that you're dedicated to and you love doing. And, besides being in the classroom, the second thing I love doing is, talking in the podcast and talking to people and getting to know more people. And like you said, I mean, the thievery that we encounter in teaching it's good, because I've been to, several places in my career, and that every place I've gone and all the people I've met has just built more levels and more levels and deeper. And every year I try to rethink, what we do and try to make it different. So that I can improve and get better and try new things. So I know choosing repertoire is one of your favorite things or one of your specialties. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you go about choosing repertoire for your groups? And then you also mentioned choosing a diverse repertoire. What are some things that you consider or factors that play into that?
Happy to chat about that. I mentioned at the top that sort of social justice framework is a big part of how I look at the classroom in general. And that, I think, comes to all kinds of things. When we talk about social justice, I think most folks are often thinking about race and gender. I think it can also look like a whole bunch of other things that students need to see in the composers they play, in the conductors they meet, all of those things. Mm-hmm. So in my work, both with the California Orchestra Directors Association, where I serve as president, and then also in my program, I think we really are looking at what does repertoire diversity look like. And that's one tiny spot of the whole DEI lens, but I think repertoire is a really solid way we can look at that. Yeah. So for me, that means just being a total, I call it a repertoire goblin. Every time I go to a conference or I see a reading session, I am always going to make sure that I note down everything that looks even a little bit interesting to look up later. I'm always going to look up the list and keep it and add it to my own crazy brainstorm document. I have a chaotic document that actually really blew up before Midwest because I was really excited about that. But that document is something that I always refer back to. The things I'm looking for, of course, we want every student to come away from their experience in high school orchestra playing all of the greats, right? So we want them to have the experience with all of their string serenades. We want to make sure that every classical, romantic, Baroque composer that we want them to experience is experienced. And I also want them to see people who look like them. I also want to see people who are lesser known. I also, for my own trying not to be bored, want to make sure I'm playing new things too.
Yeah.
So I think,
there's a lot of teachers that get in a rut and they get in a 4-year cycle, and it's like,
I could never. I don't know. I'm not one of those people. I personally would struggle with that.
And I have my favorites.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm doing a whole bunch of new pieces. This thing. Do you know the Christopher Wilson suite?
Yeah,
I didn't know that at all. And I looked it up. It's on our list, and the first movement, and it's like, that's a great piece. Where did this come from? I had no idea. So that's just one example of finding something new.
But that is so fun. And I love going to other people's concerts and being like, wow, you have these an incredible idea, and taking that. And the other thing is just that we have all our major publishers that we all know and love and work well with. And there's so much great music that's being published by individuals, by being published by smaller publishers. And so sort of keeping on track of that beat and sort of seeing what's coming out, following up with composers directly, commissioning from composers. We've had so many great opportunities to do so, working with composers as much as possible. Nice. Yeah, we've had a lot of great opportunities. For Midwest 2022, we had a opportunity to commission from Armand Wimberly, who he's in Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff.
The one piece we did last fall, what is it called? I can't think of it now.
He's got Triumph, which is kind of like a grade 2, or a grade 3 maybe. Yeah. That one's really popular. Super fun. He's doing a great job of writing out sort of hip hop beats in Western notation, but getting it through the publisher without it being flagged as too hard from the rhythm. And because I think his whole thing is teaching by rote. We commissioned a piece called Soul Dance that he had a friend make a trap beat.
Is that available to purchase?
Yeah, it's on Murphy, so you can definitely purchase that. And Murphy Music Press has been doing a great job actually of getting some new voices out there.
Cool.
And then we last year had the opportunity. You likely know Dion Morales. He's in Chicago. He's an educator with a middle school program, but he's also been writing some great stuff. He wrote a piece for us last year about his own heritage, and it was super cool just to have him come out and work with our kids. we just did a premiere of a piece by Catherine Lakuta. She's an Australian composer.
Oh.
She mostly writes for band, but we got to premiere one of her first string pieces called People of Sky and Wheat. And that's about her. It was written for World Refugee Day a couple years ago. Wow. And it's sort of just about that experience. But she came out and worked with our kids too, and told us about sort of the drive behind what she wrote. This kind of like bringing new music to light and having our students be able to see composers are people, composers are people with real lives and stories. Yeah. And also just to help bring those. That's an example of like, I'm so fortunate to work where I work, and we have this opportunity to bring these things to light. So who are we bringing with us?
Yeah, that those experiences of bringing in outside people make a huge difference. We had a visitor from one of our local orchestras, but it's the Atlanta Baroque Orchestra. And she
amazing!
She brought her Baroque violin and played and talked about all the differences, And then she gave us a whole bunch of free tickets we gave out. And some of the kids I talked to, it was at the concert, it was on Sunday, and the kids just really enjoyed it, And I
could be so eye-opening for kids.
It was just like an ear cleanse, It was just the pure sound. It was fantastic. But those kind of experiences, like, keep shaping kids and keep them interested and exploring and so I was.
And you never know what's gonna go with, like, what's gonna resonate with a kid, right? Maybe there's a kid who wasn't that into it when you played your Brandenburg 5 Merle Isaac J whatever Isaac arrangement, but then they heard this Baroque sound and they're like, oh, that's what we're going for. And like, you never know what's gonna resonate. I still have students who refer back to when we got to work with Armand Wimberly back when he came out to work with us, and he was like, that piece still really resonates with me. And so like offering these things when we can to students is I think what sticks with them in the long run.
Yeah, I can't wait to pick your brain more off camera for repertoire selection.
Yeah, I could talk your ear off all day. I've been so lucky to have many colleagues who are really, really inspiring and great. If you don't know Matt Mulvaney, he is a great guy down in San Diego. He's a past president of the California Orchestra Directors Association. He and our text thread is just pieces and pieces and pieces of, we'll go on for a long time.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I love learning from colleagues. It's really a big part of everything, I think.
It's been, my mentors have been just so influential. I can't even tell you. And, it has really shaped me because I didn't have a lot of leadership skills, I would say, when I first started. And just being able to be with the people in Las Vegas and in Florida and then back in Ohio and then being able to travel and meet some people like through ASTA is I can't even tell you. It's really shaped me, and I love being that person for some of the younger folks that are just getting started too. So,
and y'all in Cobb County have an incredible program. It's amazing that you're there and helping to shape a lot of the things that are happening there too.
We're very, very blessed here and very fortunate to have all the support we do, and it's just a mecca with our county and then Fulton and then Gwinnett too. I mean, and APS. Like we have a really good core here.
It's really special. No, and it's great to hear also that I've taught in one place, and I there's a small chance that I might die in this job, but
I also a great job,
It is a great job. I've been listening. I was listening to a couple episodes just in preparation for this, and I was hearing a lot about your story and how much you've gotten to influence different parts of the country. It's fantastic.
Well, it is until you go to retire, and then you realize, like, I have this retirement, I have this and this.
That part's a little trickier.
That's why I will do 40 years and not 30. But yes. I wouldn't trade it for anything because, having
so
university
cool.
experience, it's been great.
Man, and speak of the adolescence of my career, I think all the time about university. I would love to work with undergrads. I would love to work with grad students. I think it would be a good fit for me as well. There's just so many of the logistics that life brings that, like, it's a never say never for me, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's challenging. And then as you may have seen, there's a lot of higher ed folks that are
who are moving out
to public school.
I know. I'm seeing that.
Reasons, financial or whatever it is. There's a whole bunch of reasons, but that's happening too. But for me, it's not out of question either. I would love to maybe do that again someday. But my job I'm in right now is just it's just amazing, and there's so much room to grow. But there's also so many great things that I already have. So
and stages of life too, right? Like you've got teenage kids; they're only going to be teenagers for so long. Like those things are all on the table. I think about how like we have to consider the holistic person all the time. I did my master's at the University of Michigan with Mike Hopkins and Colleen Conway, and just like, it was so fantastic. I loved that whole thing. But right after that, I was like, should I go do my doctorate? And then just pieces didn't work out the way, or I wasn't fully ready to make that commitment.
Well, there's time. And, you know, I did mine after teaching for a while, you know, and it took me a long time to get it done because of jobs and kids and,
for sure,
you know, things that happen. But, you know, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But, you know, for me, it was just kind of one of those coincidental, this happened and this happened and this happened. And that's how it goes. So,
yeah. No, I know a lot of your listeners are often thinking about like what the next steps are. And I'm right there with them.
Yeah. You know, and if you follow your heart, that's the most important thing. I know it's kind of corny, but really you kind of know inside. And, you know, every time you do something, it's a calculated risk. You know, you may work out, it may not work out exactly what you want, but several times I've done that. Maybe it didn't work out exactly the way I wanted to, and you give it time and good things continue to happen. You know, hard work pays off. And I know that's another cheesy thing, but it truly does. It's,
for sure.
You know,
I've had so many opportunities afforded to me because of positions I've said yes to, right? I've had the opportunity to give back to the music ed community and the orchestra community in California because I did this one, and then that helped me get this one, and then those things. And now I feel like I've had an opportunity to really make it like shape what we're doing. And I want to keep doing that. It's
so
great.
You're a president of the California Orchestra Directors Association. I know that's different than ASTA.
It is different than ASTA. It's also confusingly also acronymed CODA, which is the same as the College Orchestra Directors Association. Right. So that confuses people all over the place. But CODA, the California version, does the all-state activities and sort of the professional development at our state conference. We also run a separate statewide honor orchestra event that happens in December every year. So,
and is that tied with NAFME or you have a NAFME?
You know, oddly, we're a separate organization, but we partner a lot with these other ones. We do have a Cal ASTA branch but every state's ASTA does a little bit of a different thing. We're really looking forward to sort of merging a little bit more over time. But CODA has been fantastic for my growth personally, and also just an opportunity. I grew up and I got to play in the all-state orchestras in high school, and I got to be part of like this thing that really was formative for me. It was like, wow, the power of playing with all these other kids who really want to be there. The power of, I mean, we played Respighi Pines of Rome my sophomore year, and that performance will stay with me forever.
Yeah,
and
you will never
to get to be part of that, to put that on for someone else, fantastic. Like, and I see that it feels to me like a very direct, full circle way to give back. I've been really lucky to get to do that. I've been involved with our CMEA bass section group as our orchestra rep previously, and now I help run the website. But that's another group that is related. CMEA is then the NAFME partner in California.
Very cool.
It's also just odd, similar to Georgia, where it's just a really big state also. So there's lots of different things that are happening.
Yeah. You guys, it's very long.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I also saw that, and you had mentioned that you're coming to Georgia to conduct All-State for us.
I am thrilled to be doing so. In March. I'm doing one of the two middle school orchestras. And that's an example also of, I really thought about the repertoire, especially for middle school, because I think a lot of middle school directors will listen to this and be like, there's just not that much, quote, diverse repertoire available, but there is. You've got to find it. Yeah. I am very excited about the program. I'm super excited for the opportunity to lead that group. How formative that those opportunities can be.
Great
and
kids.
I'm planning it, thinking I'm positive they're going to be fantastic. And I'm thinking about how I want to shape the whole weekend. I think a lot, this is going to sound so Silicon Valley of me, but I think a lot about user experience. And for me, that's like students and how they process the information I'm giving them, right? And how they feel when they're using it, and how they feel when they're interacting with the material. So it's not just about, the repertoire is really important, but also when you have like an all-state weekend like this, how can you make sure that they feel like they're part of the community from the start? They can take risks. How do you make sure that they are feeling like they're heard, even though they might be feeling all kinds of feelings of adequacy, inadequacy, seating, audition, stress, any of those things. They're away from home, like all of those things. And so I try to think like the student as much as I can. That's in my day-to-day classroom, but especially when I'm thinking about a weekend like that. So I'm thinking about like, what are
weekend for those kids too.
And maybe to be in seventh grade and
that much work in one sitting, you know.
And it's going to be a lot of rep. The feedback originally was that I had chosen rep that was too hard, which is fair. So I scaled it back slightly, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay.
Well, it's also just a little bit of a short. It's 1 day shorter than some of the other all-state.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's 1 day shorter than California. It's 1 day shorter than Texas. So that is a fair.
It makes a difference. Right.
Totally. But I have no doubt that they're going to be so excited, and I'm thrilled to be there and to get to sort of show what I do. And it's just going to be a good time.
Yeah. I hope to be able to be there and watch you work, because it would be super fun.
For sure. Yeah. And by chance, actually, I didn't mention this at the top, but my husband grew up in Cobb County, went to Pope High School, and went to UGA. And so I'm familiar with Athens and the whole thing. And it'll be good.
So you hear about it all the time, probably.
It's you played the trumpet,
it's a fun place, and it's fun to be able to go there. And we have our conference in January, and then we do the All-State in March. So.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were separate until very recently.
A lot of states keep it together, and I thought it was weird too, but it is kind of nice being able to go to conference, not worry about kids, and then when you go to All-State, you just worry about kids.
Oh yeah, we do the one that's all together. It's going to be in January this year, and it is a chaos weekend. It's thousands of kids and thousands of adults, and you are in charge of both sides of it, and you're just hope for the best.
That sounds like a lot.
It is a lot of work. But this kind of like giving back to the music ed community at large has been formative for me, right? Like every time I do it, I get to meet new people that then get to benefit my program. And then I get to learn from everyone. I go to every conference. I'm there to learn. I will always be there to learn.
Yeah. And I think that's the downfall of people who don't go to conferences. And maybe sometimes I know there's roadblocks where it's, financial or time or kids or whatever it might be, which, that happens too. And there's a lot of things we can't do, but there are some, out there that don't do anything. And I think they're really holding themselves back just to be able to learn and to be able to grow. And every time I go to a conference, I'm bringing something back for my kids.
Absolutely. And that's coming from a place of absolute privilege where I'm afforded the ability to go. Like my district will support me in doing so. And all of those, like there's so many reasons logistically why people can't go. And also when we can, we get to reap so many benefits back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important. And it keeps me going too. I'm looking forward to Midwest and ASTA. And yeah. It's gonna be great.
For sure. And I think you've done such a great job also of connecting with folks and bringing them together in this community. I've listened to so many interviews with people that I have admired from afar, and I get to learn a little bit more about them. It's great.
Yeah, I love doing it. We got Bob Phillips coming tomorrow.
Oh, great! So, fantastic.
We got two superstars this week, which is going to be.
Hey, I am not a Bob Phillips in this world, but someday I will aspire to be.
It's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about your program? And I'm really interested to hear. I know how many students are in your program? I know there was a large program.
In total, just shy of 200-ish.
Okay.
We've got 4 orchestras at our school, and we do things a little bit differently than most folks. Our orchestras at the string orchestra level are actually not leveled. So we don't do like a tiered system. We do a 9 through 12 unauditioned. We've got 2 equal classes. It's very untraditional, but this is the way that my co-teacher Sandra Lewis had it set up. And I think there are pros and cons to both ways. And we definitely reap the benefits of having older and younger kids together. We love that. We really, we lean into it. We've got a system that my co-teacher developed called Aunties and Uncles, where the seniors have these like family groups. They adopt the younger members. Things like behavior are not at all a problem when you have seniors in your class and also freshmen who want to look cool in front of those seniors. So generally speaking, there are lovely things that happen from it. It is very cool.
And how many, you have 2 classes of that?
Yeah, I really started at the middle when I was describing that. Then we have an auditioned chamber orchestra that is 10 through 12, and you do have to have been in the string orchestra for 1 year in order to audition for that group. Okay. That's the group that went to Midwest most recently. Mm-hmm. And then separately, we run a class of symphony orchestra, and those kids are in the regular orchestra class, but they're also enrolled in our honors level symphony orchestra. So then they have to be, in order to qualify for that, they have to pass an audition and be enrolled concurrently. So they are doing an evening rehearsal in addition to that.
But it's honors, so they're getting a weighted grade?
It is honors. It actually is also honors in the chamber orchestra. We were able, those 2 things have been really, really clutch. I know everyone's working on it.
We're fighting for that. Yes.
Yep. I will say it's been game changing for us because yes, we are Silicon Valley. We are, we really were concerned about our GPAs across the board. Yeah. And it does, for better or for worse, keep kids in the program. Yeah. And I think I am a person. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
I will never be obsessed with this system. I also understand that kids will leave, and we're very lucky in the Bay Area to have a rich culture of private youth orchestras, and that's fantastic. It's a little bit different than other states, though, where it is not a requirement to be in your school program to be in those programs, and some of them are very expensive, and so like there's a lot of like ideological mismatches. Some of the programs are very supportive of the schools, and then some are just available for students who don't want to take it at school. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But we've been very lucky to get to partner really positively with a lot of the groups.
Well,
too.
Do you have, how many students at your school would you say play in a youth orchestra but are not in your program?
There's a handful.
Do you have a number?
Sure. I don't. It's not. It's a weird stat to be able to track, but we're aware of them for sure.
Sure.
And I understand the draw of the youth orchestra. I grew up playing in my school program, orchestra and choir, all 4 years. Wow. But then I also played in the San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra and a couple of the other ones here. And I was so lucky to have those opportunities. Yeah. But I think the playing music as part of your school day and being part of that community is so, so important. Like it's different than meeting once a week in the evening. And
I agree,
and
that's
I feel strongly about that.
What I try to get through to some students. But most of our youth orchestras in our town require participation in the school program.
Yeah,
if there is one.
Often we pull a lot of quotes from those websites to be like, hey, this is the norm in many other states. Yeah. And I don't get me wrong, I have nothing against those other programs. I think they offer a lot. I just really think that like we have this rich resource at school and students should be in the school program.
Yeah. And when you have a really strong program, it's hard to say, well, you're not very good. No, you guys are good. Like
yeah. No, and we've been really fortunate. I mean, the program has grown a ton over the last 10 years.
Good.
For a long time, Sandra Lewis was teaching a like 90-person one class orchestra that was just a lot of kids in one, and that was it. And then we were able to bring me over from middle school and sort of let that keep growing, and we were able to start the symphony orchestra at an honors level and just get that going, and it's been so delightful and such a joy to get to teach.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you have that honors level designation, they like the requirement of like, hey, you need to come prepared and you need to have this basic set of skills ready to go is a lot easier to move forward quickly.
That's amazing. How, so you said you're just shy of 200. So how many students are in your chamber orchestra?
We keep that one really small. That's the one that's really small. Yeah, we keep it actually under 30.
Okay.
I think it's unusual for that.
The creme de la creme.
Yeah, and we are so fortunate that we have some really, just world-class players. We're really lucky to get to work with them. And at the same time, I think the main goal of our program is always cultivating good citizenship and human nature. Yep. Like our best players are not always going to be seated at the top if they can't be great team members. That's always the way it is.
Yeah.
And we seat, but we don't seat very traditionally. We move around a lot. We have a lot of like non-orchestra things. We don't really do the whole concertmaster thing. We have a lot of like leadership from everywhere.
That's great. My least favorite thing to do in all of teaching is seats.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I could talk for days about this. I feel very strongly about I do think we need important leaders, and I do think that we are going to make sure that we audition for those parts and get that all ready to go. I also think they're not permanent, but we don't have a culture of challenging for chairs. That's not part of my philosophy.
No, I agree.
And we have an idea that's just we seat you where it's strongest for the group, and we say that all the time. And it's also not permanent, so it'll change. Great. So that's the kind of thing we tell kids. With our middle level groups, we change seats often. They're changing seats every few weeks so that they're getting to work with a new partner. I mentioned that partner work is a huge part of what we do every day. So
cool. Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
And, it's great, and the symphony orchestra is a hoot, so it's a great time.
What are some of your assessment practices? What do you do for grading?
Yeah. Good question.
Curious.
Yeah, we do a whole bunch of ensemble skills is a category that we look at, and we have rubrics for hey, I'm participating in these ways. We do self-reflection and also teacher updates on, and if there is anything we're worried about, we have that conversation with the kid. We document hey, here's what happened on this day, and that's
right.
Playing wise, we do progress checks that are either in person or submit online. We use Schoology as our LMS, and so that allows us to do videos that are submit for our honors level symphony orchestra class. If you have to miss rehearsal, you do have to make a recording, and that gets submitted through Schoology. The progress checks in person are you come and you know that you're going to be playing in front of a small group and in front of one of the teachers, and we'll have you play 8 to 16 bars, and then we have rubrics that specifically we're pulling the categories that are useful for that particular progress check. So this one has a lot of shifting. We're going to make sure that we understand where, and we do typing quickly is a big part of my job. Like if I want to be able to provide that feedback, and I want to do it as efficiently as possible. So when I'm doing a live seating audition, kids are getting 2 to 3 sentences at least of feedback typed into their Schoology that they can then go back and refer back to.
Yeah, that's a challenge when you have a lot of kids.
Totally. And that's one of the reasons to do things outside of school. So or like online, and we'll switch between those two things. Verbal feedback is also huge. Yeah, I don't know. But I think the whole point of any kind of assessment playing wise is that they need to understand what they can do better. Because if we don't do that, and we're just giving them a number or giving them a pass, then to me, that was kind of useless. Yeah. So I think about that a lot.
Wonderful. Anything that you're kind of thinking about is in trends or good and bad in our profession or in music education in general, things that you're seeing, things that you're concerned about?
Yeah. I think a lot about access to what we do. I described a little bit about my background. I was so fortunate to be afforded so many opportunities from a young age that really put me directly onto this track. So lucky. I think so much about the inequities of orchestra specifically, about strings specifically. I think about how I help to run all state programs that are for a specific set of kids a lot of the time. And so I think one thing that I think about with CODA is sort of our DEI guidelines of who are we doing this for? Or how are we helping to get more kids who look not like these kids here? Yeah. How can we make sure that we're supporting everyone? And also, when I say these kids, like everyone who is at this program isn't necessarily someone who could have afforded to be there anyway, And so I think about removing financial barriers. We did a clinic this year, CODA and our partners CBDA, California Bands, called Super Saturday, which was a audition clinic on a Saturday. Cool. It was super. And the idea was just that for a very low cost, about $25, they were able to come in and get a 3-hour clinic with a member of the San Francisco Symphony, the LA Phil, on the audition excerpts specifically that they'll need for all states. So like this kind of like, what can we do to reach out and try to get like that, and that might be the only private lesson that kids ever had with anyone, right? And so like we are trying to do more and more of this kind of access, removing barriers and removing financial barriers, a lot more scholarship stuff that we can do to give other kids. When I think about like strings in particular, I have a podcast that I was working on with my friend Pat D'Andrea. It's called Band Meets Strings.
Cool.
And it's coming from his perspective.
Where you broke up a little bit.
Yeah. Band Meets Strings. You can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But the idea was just that, like, hey, band teachers who have to teach strings, happens all the time. Yeah. Like it's so much harder to find orchestra information than it is for a lot of other things. And there are wonderful resources like your website. There are wonderful resources like Michael Hopkins's book and the Ask to stuff. Like all of those things are fantastic. And also, like, how do you teach shifting to third position with like a nice sound successfully? So like it's when I think about access, I'm also thinking about it to teachers and making sure that we can get that around. But yeah, to answer your question originally, what trends that I'm thinking about? I just want to make sure that we're opening this world up as much as possible. Yeah,
it's when I was going through, we were the only orchestra in our county. And I look back and it's like, if I just lived 5 minutes further over and I went to a different school,
totally,
what would I be doing right now? I mean, like it's kind of crazy to think about that, but it was
absolutely
right place at the right time, with that and starting in 4th grade. And
I love that.
Yeah. So fortunate, to have that. But I was unlike you. I could not make my all region outside of Cleveland. I could not make
which I think it's amazing. That's who we need as educators, right? We don't need me as an educator, to be honest. No, but I mean, that's what I mean is like, there are so many people who could be doing exactly this. They just don't know it yet. And like, I think when I think about the future of music ed, we need to be catching those kids through the system, right? That we need to get them excited about it. And we need those professors at the university level to keep them in the system. Yeah.
And it's, when I tell my story, it's like, it's kind of a miracle that everything turned out this way, but it's just been great teachers and a drive to want to do this. And I've known since probably about 10th grade that this is what I wanted to do, and it's all because of my high school teacher. So that influence, and you never know who you might be able to influence and have an impact on. So
No, I think that's great. And like, that reminds me that every day here, to be honest, I went to work this morning. I wasn't that excited about being at work, but it's a week before Thanksgiving, we're all dealing with what we're all dealing with in our private lives. And also, like what you're saying, you never know like which kid you're going to make an impact on, which kid's going to turn around and become the next music educator that like shapes a whole bunch of other lives. We're so lucky to get to do what we do, even when I don't feel like it.
Yeah. I was excited to go to school this morning because we had our Friendsgiving breakfast.
And, love it.
It's a potluck. And so we had donuts and we had everything.
Oh, I love it. We have turkey feast on Wednesday, which is our school-wide tradition. The entire school gets fed a Thanksgiving meal. It's bonkers. There's like thousands of kids and parents doing all these things. It's incredible.
Wow.
But I love the holiday traditions at the school. Yeah. It's great.
When you have, the kids are like, well, we do this every Monday. It would make Monday so much better. Oh, you did it in
orchestra. Oh, I love that.
Our orchestra Friendsgiving, yes.
Well, that is sweet.
So it was really fun. That. And, and they're like, we do some trivia or whatever. And then we didn't end up doing it because they were just talking and having a good time. We had some, holiday music on in the background and
fun.
They had a great time. So it made my day to see them coming together and just, be kids.
That's the kind of stuff that we need. Like we're so like driven on what we need to do for the next concert, but like the kids stay in the program because of Orchestra Friendsgiving. Like that's the thing.
And some do. And I tell this out to the kids. I said, I know you're here. Some of you are here because you love Bach or you love this music, and some of you are here because of your instrument. You love playing your instrument. Some of you are here because of your friends, and that's why we have 4 different levels. And so for me, that's it's kind of a thing. There's a place for everybody, and if you want to practice, a lot. There's a group for you, and if you want to just hang out with your friends and play some while you're in class, there's a place for you too. So
for sure, but there's a place for everyone. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and
we do a little note of thanks on Thursday. We have them thank 2 adults on campus of any part of the staff. So any from their counselors to their teachers to their custodians and lunch service folks, and we deliver them all. It's great.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that the community building part of what we do is. I think the part that's just the most fun and I get to reap the most rewards from,
For sure. Yeah.
Well, hey, it has been so great to have you on the podcast, and I really appreciate you taking the time after a busy day at school. I know that it's early for you and you're probably ready to relax, but your energy is amazing. And it's just been great to get to chat with you a little bit more beyond the ASTA meetings, which we don't get to do very much at all. But I appreciate all that you're doing and that you're being here, and it's just so wonderful to hear.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, everybody, we are on to our next episode coming up with Bob Phillips. We'll keep you posted, but for the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. And thank you again, Tiffany, for being on. We will see you guys next time.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. For resources and more information, visit orchestrateacher.net.